All right, Buzz babies, and we are back for another episode of Blake's Buzz. And this week I've got a very, very talented and special guest. He has worked on New Mutants, Uncanny X-Men. He's doing Batman Incorporated. He's done The Big Two. He's written at Boom. He's written at Aftershock. He's written everywhere. Ghost Rider, all sorts of amazing stuff. This guy is a massive talent in both the indie and Big Two fields. I am so fucking stoked to talk to this guy. Oh my goodness. Ed, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I'm still getting my wheels under me here. I've been awake for about 10 minutes, so I apologize in advance. But yeah, I'm not normally much of a morning person, and this time change has messed me up a little bit. But
yeah,
I'm good. So I'm here.
When you told me, like, when we were talking about time zones and you were like, I'm Atlantic time zone, and I was like, that's not real. I was like, I've never heard of this before. And then I was like Googling it, and there's some weird like second Sunday in March switch over. And I was like, I was sitting here and I was like, man, I really hope I got the right time on my
right. You guys don't have daylight savings in that where you are?
We do. Call it's Eastern. It's they just call it like Eastern here. I've just never heard it called Atlantic before, so that kind of threw me for a loop.
Yeah, it's I used to live on the West Coast up until 4.5 years ago, and I didn't realize that there was an Atlantic time zone either until we moved here, and then I thought I was 3 hours ahead of everything, but now I'm 4. All my family and me on the West Coast.
What sparked the move?
So we lived in Vancouver. I lived there for 20 plus years, but my wife, she was born there. She grew up there. And, I know that real estate is like buying a house or renting a house. It's a nightmare everywhere right now, but it's kind of been that way in Vancouver for 20 years. It was like, and it just kept getting worse and worse. So, we wanted to buy a house, and we kept losing rentals because of this. They would be torn down and built into condos, and we lost 2 rentals that way. And the price of renting just went too crazy for us. And initially my plan is I just wanted to move somewhere where people didn't talk about real estate constantly, because it's all people talk about in Vancouver. So we moved to Halifax. Which was reasonable when we moved here, but now it's gone crazy here as well. It was like the last bastion of like real estate sanity in Canada. Now it's gone insane as well, and that's all people talk about here is real estate.
But now you're fucking talking about it on a podcast.
Yeah, there we go. But we managed to buy
get up early for this.
We managed to buy a place, so we have a place out here, and we're happy. And I'd always wanted to move here. I was a big fan of the Halifax music scene in the 90s. Nice. I tried to move here when I was younger and join a band, and it didn't work out, and I got stranded halfway across Canada. But so this was my way of kind of just fulfilling that dream of a younger Ed.
Nice, man. Well, I mean, hey, good to know the dreams come true, right? Like you've got a really awesome comic book career going, and you got the house and the wife and the dog, and it sounds like you're doing a lot better than I am. I guess you got me fucking questioning my whole existence right now.
Sorry about that.
I made some wrong turns. No. But yeah, man, I'm so stoked to talk to you. I've been a big fan for a long time, and I'm really digging Marvel's new, like I was really in when they launched the Alien book, really into that. And then like Predator got delayed a little bit. They announced it, and then they piddle fucked around because all the just when we talked earlier about like when I mentioned the trade comes out, it's supposed to be like I think first week of April, and you were like, I guess. I mean, like it's really hard to figure out like when stuff comes out sometimes, especially on the indie side. Marvel and DC are getting a little bit more regular and timely, but anyway, so Predator got delayed. I think we were all really excited for it, and then like the hype really paid off in a big way. Like so right now the first arc is out, right? And then we just relaunched with like arc 2 and a renumbering, because I'm for some reason Marvel and DC don't think we can count past 12, which is fine. I get it. Whatever the whatever works. But yeah, man, that first arc is so great, right? And then I want to talk about the new issue, but I don't want to like say too much
Sure, I
because
get it.
that end is great. But I really love Theta. Okay, so like you have this new great female lead, super empowering, tons of agency, great on the page, just like absolutely fun in every way, and kind of terrifying too, right? Like, I love how they and her whole space colony and family get like massacred, right? By these like you do, right?
Yeah.
In a Predator or Alien book, almost everybody's gonna die. Nobody's safe, right? So she's on this like revenge story, and she's basically a predator now. She wears their armor, she collects their skulls, hangs them up in the spaceship, just like, I mean, it's so gnarly how like the victim becomes the predator and the predators become the prey. Like, I love this like dichotomous like mix and match that you've made here in this alien world, right? And I mean, man, like it's so smart. It's so fun. The art team is great. The violence looks wonderful. Like, I feel like this is it's very in your wheelhouse too. Like, it's definitely got your vibes. You can tell it's your voice. But like, what was your thought like when like getting the gig? I'm sure you were like really stoked, and then but also there's like a lot of pressure. It's got a big fan base. Nerds get fucking cranky if you don't do everything right. So
Yeah.
were you pretty confident like going in? You were like, I got the story, I know how to, like, this is gonna be a banger and we're safe? Or were you kind of like, you were like, man, like, like, was it, what was your kind of, what are you thinking about it?
So with that sort of stuff, it's like, I know this sounds maybe callous, but it's best not to think about like, it sounds rude almost to say not to think about the fans, and that's not necessarily the full truth, but it's just like, I'm going in, I'm a fan of the Predator franchise. I saw the first one in theaters, in a drive-in theater actually, when it came out. I probably would watch them all, well, most of them, several times, a dozen plus times each. I was on a podcast a few years ago defending Predator 2 as being a good movie. I don't know. I sort of had like a back pocket idea for it when I got offered, which was an idea that I'd had years and years ago. I think maybe when I was in high school or college. It's like the idea, what we ended up doing is not exactly the same, but the germ of the idea was there back then. And that was exactly what you already sort of set up there, is that somebody whose family was wiped out has basically dedicated their life to studying the predators and trying to annihilate the predators. So yeah, there was a little bit of worry because the first arc is really about establishing how badass that she is and how she is able to take down predators, something that not a lot of people are able to do. It comes at a cost. We see, she's covered in scars. She's missing one of her limbs, has a prosthetic limb. It hasn't been easy, but I knew that we would get a little bit of pushback from some readers about her taking out, I can't remember how many predators she kills over the course of the,
it's like 20 issues. Is it 23 or so? It's an astronomical number.
over 15 years, I think she's done 23. I think over the series it's like 4 predators.
Okay.
But yeah, so I knew that's where we get some pushback, but really the first arc was about establishing who she was and why she was really a threat to these predators, and then we get to have a little fallout from that going forward. So anxiety wise, I was just so excited to be working on Predator that I just honestly was kind of nose to the grindstone and didn't really worry about, I made a Predator book that I knew I would love and just hope that others would love as well. And the reaction's been pretty good. So, I think we did pretty well. And obviously we got the second series going, and
Yeah,
Great.
I was sneaking a look at some reviews, and it does feel like, you know, people are digging it, which I'm glad, because like I said, I think it's great. I think Marvel's doing some really cool stuff here. Now it's cool. Like so I talked to Declan Shalvey yesterday about his stuff, and talking about his about to be run on Alien, and he was talking about how you've both done work at Marvel, you know, previously, and he was talking about how fun it is because they're kind of like they're playing it a little more loose with this new line, and now they've brought in Planet of the Apes too, and they're, you know, you guys can curse, you can be a little more violent, you can be a little more gory, show some more blood, they're giving you like kind of free reign. He said you still have to pitch these stories and get them okayed, but they're very they're more malleable than, say, like when you were writing, you know, New Mutants or something like that. You know, they're you can kind of, it sounds like they're letting you guys play in the sandbox and be a little more in charge. Is that kind of how you're feeling on Predator as well?
Yeah, so the 20th century side has been great and been really supportive in everything I've been doing so far. So, you know, I haven't really run into any issues. The swearing that was an interesting one because nobody told me we could swear. And I think I was writing the second issue, and Jake Thomas mentioned it, and then I think you know, I had probably about 300 swear words in the second issue that we obviously then cut back. But no, it's been really cool. You know, it's hard when you have sort of a licensor involved, like in this case, it's 20th Century Fox is involved with the Marvel folks. It can sometimes be a real nightmare. I've worked on licensed books in the past where the licensors were so heavy-handed with notes and so worried about anything you're doing having any sort of like impact on the brand, and then also then looking at comics is a very like, you know, we're not going to let them really do anything exciting because it's just comics. It's not a TV show, or it's not a whatever the fuck they have. So sometimes it's just been a nightmare, but 20th Century has been great. They've thrown some ideas in, you know, at some points where like we've maybe run into a roadblock with something we can't do. But yeah, it's been great. And then, you know, obviously Marvel, you know, on the first series I had Jake Thomas and then Darren Chan editing. Now we have Sarah Brunstad on this new one, and they've all been really great, super supportive. And, you know, right now I'm trying to push something through to see, you know, that may not be doable. And so I'm probably for the first time really testing the boundaries of how cool they're going to be. But so far they've been cool. So I have every hope that we'll find a solution to the thing that I'm trying to do in the book.
That's exciting. So like, I know, so like Philip Kennedy Johnson, like he was on Aliens for a hot minute till he's handed it off to Declan. Like, are you feeling like you're going to be sitting on Predator for 2-3 arcs or so? Like, I mean, well, do you know yet? I mean,
so that's a decision that's sort of above me.
I got
but if I had my way, I would just, you know, I'd like to stay on Predator for as long as I can. I actually really like reading the book. I think that, you know, having brought in Theta and sort of building her world, I want to sort of just continue that forward. Pardon me. But it depends, you know, on a million factors. Depends on where they decide to go with it, if they decide to keep going. But yeah, my hope is I can stay on it for a good long while.
Were you a fan of the like the older Dark Horse stuff?
So back in the day, I'd read the Dark Horse stuff, and this time going in, I didn't go back and revisit it so much, because it's an interesting thing where like I get really worried about being bogged down by too much continuity outside of like the film continuity. So I was really trying to do something that felt more in line with the films. That's sort of what 20th Century Fox wanted when we started, is that they want something that felt more like the films. And even the film is sort of the films have broken the comic continuity themselves. So it becomes, once you have like broken continuity, you got to kind of figure out which side to sort of hitch your wagon to. And that's not saying I'm discounting all the comic book stuff, but it's just like I don't want to be um, necessarily married to something that happened in a 3-issue miniseries 20
30
years
years
ago.
ago.
Um, again, I'm not trying to discount it either, but it's like it's just not going to be possible to account for everything. And luckily, with our time, that we're set it in the future, we a lot of what happened in those books doesn't necessarily affect us. So it's stuff that can still exist and not contradict anything I'm doing as well.
Nice. Yeah, I'm just recently getting into it because Marvel started putting out the omnibuses, and
Yeah.
I got the Alien Volume 1 omnibus, which is like full of some killer content. And then there's now, I think, the 4th volume of the Alien omnibus just dropped, and then there's 1 volume of Predator. And so like the idea to like collect all these was like a good idea at the time, right? And then you're like, oh, they're just cranking out these $120 books like every other month. And it's like this is a fucking investment. But I heard that the Dark Horse stuff starts really strong, but it kind of like trails off and gets a little weird. And more so on the Alien side, not much on the Predator side. But yeah, I like that. I like that you're like familiar with the content, but I also like that you're not sweating over like shackling yourself to it, right? Because I'm not one of those people. I know like in canon shit is like a big deal to a lot of people, but I don't necessarily think it is, man. I mean, if the story's good, like let it shine, do what you want, like it's, like there's a they have their own language, they have their own culture and stuff, you can bring little elements of it, here and there. But yeah, it's, I think it's really cool what you're doing. And the way the new issue started off, which came out, I think what, two weeks ago.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
And it's like, this idea of like them collecting like the most like deadly humans, like the most power, and then like putting them in like cryo sleep and then waking them all up and dropping them in this hunting field, and then we find out it's not just, there's other things on this on this planet in this area. And I like it's so good, right? And then how I won't go deeper into that, because like if you want to know more, folks, you buy that fucking book. But how it ties into your first arc was really great, and the end of that first issue, man, like really like made the fucking hair stand up on the back of my neck. Like awesome. I was like hyped, dude. I was into it. I was like, yes, like so just a very cool world. And like I said, like I'm really glad that like you're in this sandbox making your own sandcastle, right? And it sure. Very much feels like an Ed book. And because you have this kind of like grit, badassery kind of vibe to your narratives, right? It's just like they're very like alpha and intriguing and intense and usually very physical, right? And like I saw that in your Ghost Rider, even the New Mutants arc that you did with Hickman, like had the home invasion stuff going on. And so you just like you have a way of like bringing in like a violence we understand into like a world we don't understand necessarily. And it's very cool how you do that a lot. And then, thinking about like your roots about like, Murder Book, and you did that Kickstarter last year for Catch and Release, which was excellent. And I backed it and no regrets. Like I loved the hardcover and the book. Like you guys did a great job on that. That's kind of like, because that's kind of where you got that's kind of where you jumped off, right? Like Murder Book was kind of like when people started noticing you.
I'd been doing stuff for years before that, but I used to write and draw all my own stuff, and I did a lot of like autobio types, comics, stuff that was more like in the line of something you'd read from like Fantagraphics or Drawn and Quarterly.
Okay.
And I self-published mini comics for like I'm really dating myself here, but I started self-publishing mini comics in 1994, and I self-published like 50 to 75 mini comics between 94 and 2010.
Wow.
And in 2010 I just stopped drawing. I'd originally only started writing to have stuff to draw, because I didn't, I wanted to be a comic book artist and I didn't know any writers. And so I just started writing. And after doing that for 16 years, I realized that I just didn't like drawing and I really liked writing. And so I kind of switched. And I started writing Murder Book in 2010, and that was just like kind of just straight crime stuff, straight crime short stories. And I would just put them up online and then, collect them into single issues, 2 stories per single issue. And yeah, I did that for 3 or 4 years, Murder Book. And then I started to get some attention, from the self-published stuff. And just in weird sort of like coincidental, accidental ways. Like my first Marvel gig came about because I was at C2E2 in 2013, and I was leaving the show. I exhibited, and I had like 3 copies of Murder Book left, and I didn't want to take them home with me. I didn't want to pack them, and so as I was walking out and walking past people, I was like, "Hey, you want a free crime comic?" Just handed them off, and then I got an email 2 or 3 months later, and it turned out that one of those people I handed it off to was a Marvel editor who read it and liked it, which I didn't know at the time. And that was sort of my first, I got my first gig. I didn't get another gig at Marvel for another 2.5 years. So it wasn't like I really, exceeded expectations in that first gig. But yeah, it was like Murder Book is what really got me attention, though. It's when Dark Horse collected it in 2015 that I started to get calls from editors,
Cool.
who received copies of the trade or just picked it up. But yeah, that was my big thing. And that's like kind of where most my, if I was completely left alone, completely able to just do what I wanted, it would be a lot of crime type stuff or horror type stuff. So, and that's what, a Predator is a perfect like sort of intersection of those two interests of mine. And that's not to say I don't love superhero comics, because I grew up with superhero comics. I love superhero comics. I love doing superhero comics. But, I'm always, when I'm on a book, looking for a way to sort of ground it a bit and make it, make it a little bit crimey,
Nice. Now, what was it like? So, I mean, you're an established creator, and then last year, like I mentioned, you did Catch and Release on Kickstarter. Did that make the crowdfunding element like any easier on you? Because like I do a lot of work with Kickstarter folks, and it even the like the regulars who are like like regularly putting out like several comics a year and are like used to it, like there's still that like Kickstarter stress and frenzy and then like the fulfillment nerves and stuff after everything, after you fund, then you're like, oh fuck, we got to do this now, and like did being in the industry for so long, did that kind of make your Kickstarter campaign easier? Did it go like a little smoothly, or were you still
I have no idea. It was everyone warned me about how stressful it was before. And I was sort of naively waving it off because, I'd self-published for so many years. I dealt with printers, my previous job, I dealt with printers and sending things to print all the time. So, I had that sort of skill set. I was using a fulfillment house to do the all the non-Canadian shipping of the books. So I thought that would make things easier, but no, it was still a bag of fucking stress. It was it was really intense. And I launched it probably at the worst time as well. The same time that I launched my Kickstarter, I think about 5 or 6 other like creators normally work in the industry, we all had like this sort of slump of not getting a ton of work because, publishers had shut down for a while. And when they did start up, a lot of projects that they were starting with were projects that had been started before the pandemic, shut everything down. And so they were sort of playing catch up for a while. So work was a little bit grim for a while. And I think a lot of people got the same idea at the same time and launched Kickstarter at the same time, which was the time I think where not a lot of people had a ton of money. So like, the Kickstarter did really well. Like I'm not complaining about how well it did, but I think I launched at a time where there was a lot of us competing for like the same pool of money, which definitely did add some stress. There is also that stress that you're just not going to make your goal too, right? And I know that's a stressful thing for everyone, but I feel in some some ways it might be doubly stressful if you're someone who works in the industry and you're trying to launch a Kickstarter and it doesn't reach goal. It just it would suck, right? It would look terrible for you. But we reached goal. We everything.
Yeah, you funded pretty quickly, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
right?
I think we got funding within like 10 hours.
Wow.
Somewhere 10 to 24 hours. I can't recall. But yeah, then getting the book ready, sending it out. I had an editor who definitely helped make sure that there were no, that everything looked good, that it read well. The biggest hiccup we ran into was the printing side of things, because it was, I think, around the time that the paper shortage was starting to happen. We got in just before that, but I know that there was a moment, a few moments of stress about that. And then when they shipped the books, we ran into that shipping delay. There was, I don't know if anyone listening remembers, but there was a time in, oh God, when did I get the books back? 2021. But there was a time where there was like a lineup of cargo ships just waiting to get into the port of San Francisco or LA or whatever. I think it took them, like the boat sat there for about 6 weeks, if I recall. So it was just, our book got delayed from printing and then got delayed from shipping by months. There was a period in there where I actually thought my a cargo ship had gone down, and I thought that might have been the one with my books.
Oh,
and
no.
The printer couldn't confirm initially whether or not it was.
So you're thinking your books are literally at the bottom of the ocean
exactly.
at one point. Oh my God.
So there was a lot of that sort of stress, but once the book showed up, the shipping went fairly easily. There was not really any problems, and whether or not I do another Kickstarter, that's a huge, question mark. I do like the idea of Kickstarter. I've always loved the idea that it can give a sort of a unique voices a platform where they don't need necessarily the thousands and thousands of readers that you would need to go through a traditional publisher, that just by sort of cutting out the publisher and the distributor, that you can make projects you really want to make, but projects you really want to make work. But I think there is the problem then. It's like there's not always a secondary channel for distributing those books. It's kind of like almost a one and done. Like I did print up a second cover that I do sort of sell through my site, but that's, it's not really any sort of distribution model. But yeah, it's, I would do it again, but my eyes would be a bit more open to it, the experiences this time, and I'd prepare maybe a little bit better.
Have you tried pitching catch and release around, or is that where you're not really interested in that part? You just wanted to have it made?
So I did. I have pitched it. I did have this is one of these unfortunate things that sort of got away, but through sort of editorial shuffles. But there was a plan after Catch and Release came out that this publisher was going to re-release the murder book collection, which would have been the original collection, and would have had Catch and Release included in that collection. So it'd be I can't remember. It puts it at probably about 260-page collection.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were going to do an annual murder book, same as Catch and Release, like an annual graphic novella that would have come out every October. And part of the deal was I think they were committing to 3 volumes just to make, just so we could get it rolling and have it established. It would come out at the same time every year. Unfortunately, as I was literally waiting to sign papers on it, there was a massive editorial shuffle at this publisher, and all the people I'd been working with on the book were suddenly gone.
Oh man!
And so it's one of those things that's not happening right now, but it's something that I would like to happen at some point. But it's just finding a publisher who will commit to doing the annual books and doing, like 3 of them at least, is a pretty big ask, especially for like a black and white crime book. It's I know it's a harder sell. So, but I don't, the deal was good. I don't want to just go with any publisher. I want to, I have some sort of like longer term commitment, because I just don't want to, Murder Book has already been with Dark Horse, and I don't want to bounce around publisher to publisher with it. I'd like to find a home for it and somewhere where I can stay for a while.
I gotcha. Now, as someone who you've ran into some issues previously with, but like I know, like when I recently read I've never read a Ghost Rider comic before.
All right.
It's kind of embarrassing for some reason. I kind of even like the Nick Cage movies, like he's a cool character, but I've never really, I realized unless he was like in like a comic that other people were in, I never really read it. And so I read your Ghost Rider run, and it's a whole new Ghost Rider, right? That I was like, another one I haven't heard about. Right. And I was really digging it. Like, I loved the like invasion of demons, like from like trying to escape hell and mad at the new ruler, and like all these like crazy power plays going on, and all these like demons hiding like in people. And it was so good. And when I posted on Twitter talking about reading it, and the reason I, when we had agreed to talk, and so I was like doing homework, and everybody was like, oh my God, like it was such a great run, and fuck COVID, because like it got cut short, and you had to kind of real quick wrap it up in a King in Black tie-in.
Yeah,
like they just kind of like gave you like 20 pages to end this epic you had started, and like, which was a real bummer, because you were on to, like, I feel like you were really on to something, and laying the groundwork, for both new readers and longtime fans of the character. And then I also know like you had some cool stuff coming out from Aftershock, and that also fell into some trouble. And then there's like the weirdness going on at Aftershock too. But it does sound like, it sounds like Patrick's going to get his finale next month. So hopefully, I think they're dropping issue 5 finally.
I don't know. I'd be surprised if they did, because it's not been drawn yet. So
oh really? It's solicited on previews for
interesting. Oh, I didn't even know that. The Ghost Rider stuff was a really big blow for me. With COVID coming and everything just kind of getting fucked around. Because there was, as you could kind of tell if you read those 7 issues, there was, large plans for going forward that sort of never got realized. And that will, I think, forever to me feel like the book that got away, and one of my big regrets. But yeah, at least, I know that the King of Black was sort of like a really quick wrap up of the story, but at least I got some sort of opportunity to at least get some closure for myself. But yeah, there's a ton of unrealized stuff that was supposed to happen in that series. That's always going to be a bummer. And with Patrick Todd, it was, as everyone knows, or maybe doesn't know, but Aftershock is going through bankruptcy protection. There were a lot of payment issues towards sort of the end of that series. So yeah, we have 4 issues out. There was a lot of, I was working on other stuff, and there was a lot of people just going pencils down when they realized that other people weren't getting paid. Aftershock apparently is trying to sort that out right now. I don't know what'll happen there. I'm really, kind of conflicted about it, because, Aftershock did come in at a time where things were a little bit grim because of the pandemic, and, they were, I was able to just keep working through books I was doing with them before, things thankfully picked back up for me. It was a sort of a temporary lull, but so I'm always grateful to them for that. But at the same time, there's creators I've worked with who are still not paid for work that they've done. And, they make every assurance that they're trying to make it right. And I hope that they do. But we'll see when that happens. And as to Patrick Todd, the 5th issue, I don't know if I should be talking about this publicly, but whatever. The 5th issue is not drawn. It's written, but it's not drawn. So, it will be interesting to see if they're gonna hit Gavin back up to try and get him to draw that 5th issue and get it out. But
I really hope that they do. Oh my god, because those first 4 issues are so. I thought it was a 4 issue mini, right?
right,
So like I'm reading it and I'm like, oh, like here it is, 4th issue, like the Zeus and Bat
right,
showdown, like it's shit's gonna happen, and then I got to the end of the issue 4, and I was like, what? No, what? I was like, fuck, and then and I'm on their press list, and
right.
they've just started sending out emails again to press,
Okay,
which was I thought was a good sign because
yeah,
after the bankruptcy announcement, those emails stopped. They've recently started picking up again. So I'm fucking combing through my emails like I missed it. Where's issue 5? I missed it. And I was like, no, I never got it. And then I looked at previews and it said like late April, and I was like, oh, I gotta wait a month. And now I find out that it's not even fucking drawn. Like, because it's, dude, it's so good. Oh my god, man!
thanks,
Like
man.
the you know, we have so many like mind power stories, right? It's a common superpower that we've all grown up with because of X-Men, you know, and even DC has their own mind reading people, and yeah, this new deal and the guilt with like Patrick and his mom, and like who his family really is that he doesn't know. Like there's all these great questions, and then what a great terrifying machete wielding villain in Zeus, man.
Yeah,
Like such like you guys you and Gavin like killed it on that, and I hope you get, I really hope you get to finish it purely for selfish reasons, because I fucking need to know how it ends. But I mean, I was like, I feel like that'd be a great, you know, like one of your cooler indie works that, you know, like I want more people to read. Like I want that trade to be out there so people can experience it, because yeah, those 4 issues, man, they were really good. And your previous one you did with them, Beyond the Breach, was great too. So yeah, you were doing some real cool stuff with Aftershock, and it was a bummer. They were one of my favorite publishers. They were actually the first, when I launched Blake's Buzz, they were one of the first people that like put me on a press list when I was like brand new. And like nobody knew who the fuck I was. And I was just like tweeting about comics. And so, yeah, they like put me on their press lists, and that's how I met like David Papose, and got, you know, like they were a big part of me like building my brand and getting more popular. So I like, you know, I always had like a soft spot for them. So a big bummer when to hear all that, you know, news coming out. And it's you know, it's not just them too. Like it's a hard, rocky terrain for indie comics right now. Like it's getting scary for some people out there. So I mean, that I love indie comics. I love the freedom it gives you guys to like tell the stories you want, and to, you know, like be in control most of the time, right? Unless you're under like a predatory contract or something.
sure.
But you know, typically it's you creator owned, it's your baby, you have the rights to it, you get to do what you want with it. But I'm glad you're like, you know, on Predator right now. You're doing work. You're also, we haven't mentioned this yet, you've fucking got a great first arc of Batman Incorporated that started with that great and that 2022 annual, and those 5 issues of Batman Incorporated. And like I love how you write Ghostmaker. And do you hate Ghostmaker, or do you like, because
I really like Ghostmaker.
Do you, because I feel like you either really like him or you're like you don't like him at all, because he's a fantastic prick, right? And he's
an asshole, and
but you love him, you root for him too. How hard is that to write a character that like makes you feel all these complex emotions, similar to like when Morrison did Damian Wayne, right? Like when that started, like I was like, this kid's a prick, he does not deserve Batman's DNA. And then flash forward to me crying in a comic book shop when he died, and because I was so in love with him. And that issue when like my Batman and Robin is Dick and Damian. Like I thought, like if they ever like retired Bruce and put Dick Grayson in the cow, like you would not see me complain about it anyway. But that's how Ghostmaker feels to me. Like he pulls me in these in all these different directions. And even when he's like so callous and so mean, and you're like does he even care about anything? And then you know, but then you bring us back, and like, what's that like writing a character like that? Is it ever like, do you ever struggle with that, to push him too far in one direction? You got to like always keep that balance.
Weirdly, no. Like I find that sort of character almost one of the easiest types for me to write. And I don't know what it is about writing pricks that comes so easily. I don't think, uh, that I'm a prick in real life. But like those are the type of characters that I just love writing. And so, Ghostmaker stuff, I just, yeah, it's just a ton of fun to write. But it's, as long as you keep in sight that, I don't want to say like his heart is in the right place, because I don't not necessarily know that he has much of a heart, but he's trying for the right thing all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
He just has no compassion about how he's dealing with things. He's just very straight and direct about it,
Yeah.
and that causes a lot of a lot of issues and friction on the team. But yeah, no, he's a ton of fun to write. He does something and so we just finished the No More Teachers arc, and then we're doing a 2-issue sort of mini arc right now with Professor Pig in Gotham, who's on a rampage. He's like burning Gotham to the ground. And Ghostmaker does something at the end of this. I think it's in the first issue of it, so issue 6. That is, I think, like just such a telling moment for him that I don't want to spoil, but it's like, he's creating a lot of hardship for no reason. Well, he has reasons, but he's
Mm-hmm.
making life a lot more difficult for everyone on the team. Because he wants sort of, or demands perfection, and it's a great little moment. But yeah, he's a lot of fun to write. Him and Clown Hunter, really fun to write. And then Grey Wolf, which is a new character that we brought in.
He's awesome.
Why? And for him, I wanted to do someone who like looks like he should act like Ghostmaker, but he's really like, he's not. He's a very sweet,
tender. He's kind of tender.
He's very sweet. He's like, he was almost crying, in the first thing when the people in his village are being attacked, and so I think having a character like that is a nice balance as well too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that prison twist was great in arc 1, man. I really loved your, again, like, big shoes to fill. Let me just compare you to Grant Morrison multiple times. I'm sure that'll piss you off. But yeah, like, I loved his Batman Incorporated run, and it was interesting to like have these, how, of course, Batman is going to inspire people all over the world. He does that now, and he's not even fucking real. And so like in the comics, like, it makes sense that like people want to mimic that or take it even a step further, and try and step up and be the hero, because he shows you that, like, you can be a superhero without powers. I mean, it takes money, but sure, like, yeah. But it was cool because you have like a really big cast in this first arc, and not even like your big Batman Incorporated, not even the team. Then you have like Luther's Batman Incorporated team come in, and they're all working together with like this ulterior motive and this like big clash, and on top of all that, you weave this really great like whodunit mystery, which I thought the emotional payoff, I did not see that coming. When we find out like what real, I'm going to be vague because I don't want to spoil shit, but even though it's on DC Ultra right now, that's how I love the DC Ultra app, and that's how I read it. But so you read it, buy it, whatever you need to do, but don't pirate it. So not whatever you need to do. Legally read the comic. Anyway, but the emotional aspect of everything in the end really got me, and I thought the payoff was really great. And yeah, I just think mysteries are hard. Like I was in an MFA program. I wrote a lot of fiction. I did like short stories and poetry, and kind of I was a bouncer for a while, and I started writing about working in the bar, doing like creative nonfiction essays and stuff. But I really geek out on like tension and pacing and structure, and I think that's what makes me a better comic book reviewer. I have that background that helps me think about stories differently than just like a Wednesday warrior with a blog, right? I'm just going to toot my own horn now, but anyways, like I think about stuff like that, and whodunits are tricky, right? Because you have to like lead us with these breadcrumbs, but you can only give us so many crumbs, right? If you give us too many crumbs and we figure it out earlier, then that ruins it, and it messes with everything. It messes with the climax and the results and the tension leading up to everything, and so you have to be so careful, and you really did that. It seemed effortlessly, right? I'm sure it wasn't. I'm sure, like, I feel like these were big scripts to write. Also, just like, this is a big opportunity, right? Like a big land at DC. So you're like, you got the stresses of that, and the mantle of the bat, like, weighing on you and stuff too, and like all these elements. But I thought it was so good, and just a great whodunit with so many characters, which maybe sort of helped too, because it was hard to find. It would be hard to like nail down like who the villain was, or to really piece that together until we were finally given the information as readers. But like, what were these hard scripts to write? Like, because there's so much going on, and the balance, you always, like, nothing ever felt like cumbersome. It never felt like there were too many people. I felt like you were really good about the page time you gave everybody. It was structured extremely well.
Yeah, no, they're tough. They're tough as hell. Those two, and like, I was kicking myself a lot for introducing so many new characters. So yeah, it does become tough to give everyone enough screen time and then give them enough sort of emotional meat for people to care about. And yeah, it was a pretty tough, but I wanted to just go really big with it, and I think that we succeeded. It feels like a big story. Feels like there's we get sort of some insight into Ghostmaker that we didn't have before, that sort of explains how he is with the team and why he is the way he is with the team. But yeah, no, it was a tough one, and that many characters. It's weird because every time I have a conversation with editors, I'm always like, just give me a solo character book, and then somehow I always get team books, and I'll complain about it, and then I'll just stuff it with so many people, and like I'm doing the same with the 2-issue Pig arc is just most of the core team versus Professor Pig, but the next arc after that is Joker Inc., and it's Joker upset that Batman gets to have Batman in every city across the globe, so why not Jokers in every city across the globe? And then I just went ahead and stuffed it full of fucking Jokers. Like, it's once again, they're like, they're not Jokers, they're people inspired by the Joker, so it's not like anyone is just France Joker or Japan Joker. Everyone has their sort of own identity, but yeah, it's I don't know why I do that to myself, but and it's the same thing. We're trying to build up a bit of a mystery in that one as well, and while juggling 14 characters, I don't know, it's tough.
Damn, man, that's intense. That sounds exciting though. So like, I'm one of those people that, so many people are like, they're like, oh, I'm over the Joker, I'm over Batman and Joker. And I mean, sometimes I get it, but like, I love the Joker. I love him. Like, I love the terror and clusterfuck that he brings to the Batman mythos. And I love it when other people than Batman have to deal with that clusterfuck. It makes it, in those instances, I think the Joker becomes fresh again, right? Because it's not some timeless foe that you have this basically intimate relationship with now, right? It's a new fear. Everybody knows him. Everybody knows that, like, he's given Batman so much trouble, and even Batman, even though Batman does beat him sometimes, like he never truly keeps him down, because the Joker always comes back, and he always comes back in big terrifying ways. And then so like when new heroes have to deal with that, and that like vulnerability it instills in them, like, I think it makes for like really raw, awesome storytelling. So like, I'm really, that gets me fucking pumped for future issues of Batman Incorporated. Like, that's
awesome.
I think seeing this team, that's all. I mean, I guess by then they'll function a little bit better as a team after the Pig arc. They keep coming together, slowly but surely.
Actually, Batman Incorporated, it will intentionally, so without, this isn't really spoiling anything, but one of the things that Joker has intentionally done is um, set up his Batman or his sort of Joker Incorporated members across the globe, which will force Batman Incorporated to sort of split up. The two-issue arc, we see them working together as a team, but they have to split up again in the third arc because, you know, there's a threat in France, and there's a threat in Australia, and there's a threat in Argentina, etc. So, you know, they have to go and deal with these. But it causes a lot of grief for them because it's he's literally hitting close to home for everyone, right? It's like all the members who are on Batman Incorporated, each of their cities now has a Joker, and those Jokers, you know, I think, you know, they all have their own name, their own identity, but each one sort of creates havoc back in their home city. There's a bunch of other fallout obviously is going to come as well, but so it splits them up and causes some real tensions within the group because, you know, when you have to prioritize which ones you're dealing with, yeah, it's going to mess them up a lot.
Nice.
And Joker's done some really really nasty stuff. That we like, you get a sense of it in the first issue, and then he sort of doubles down in the second issue of it. That really just changes everything. And,
how many issues is that arc going to be?
5 issues.
Nice.
Yeah, so it'll take us up through issue 12.
Any inspiration being taken from like I'm getting slight like Snyder Death of the Family vibe, because that, I mean, that Joker didn't have a team of people in that, but that he very much set out to like splinter the Bat family and still like that paranoia in Batman and his kids and like drive a wedge between them. It kind of sounds like that's kind of what Joker's trying to do to Batman Incorporated a bit.
This is more him sort of playing mind games with Ghostmaker directly,
okay,
and trying to mess with him. So not necessarily that, you know, there's a bit of like stuff that I've pulled from, you know, some older comics. You know, there's a little bit of Grant Morrison stuff in there. There's a character who's in this series who actually is like named in one panel of one of Grant Morrison's, like never shown, but just named once.
Oh, wow.
And never shown that. I just love the name of the character and ended up just using, you know, creating a character around that for this series. But, you know, you take some inspiration from what's come before, but I'm trying to hopefully forward with something new.
You're getting me real excited about it.
Right.
I'll tell you that much. Like, I mean, you know, you got one pre-order.
Okay, perfect. That's all we need. Actually, they said we just need one reader and we're good.
What was it like landing this gig? Right. So, I mean, I feel like, you know, you got to, a Batman annual is a pretty big deal. And sometimes, you know, you're sharing that annual 2 or 3 ways, and you got that whole, you know, you got over 40 pages of, you know, DC Batman Incorporated, all you, and it got, there was a lot of press about it. You know, like that's why I bought it. Cause everybody was like Ed's going to be doing Batman Incorporated and it's going to be amazing. And I was like, okay, like this sounds cool. And yeah, the annual was great. And then that spun into the first 5 issues of the No More Teachers arc, which, as I've already said, big fan of. And I thought you did that wonderfully. But like, I mean, was this kind of like an editor thing where they were like, "Hey, you'd be a good fit here," or did you pitch a story to DC? Like, how'd you land the gig?
I've been working with Ben Abernathy a lot. He's one of the he's an editor over at DC, and he's been great. He had been in touch with me previously when I was still exclusive at Marvel, so I couldn't do anything outside of Marvel. But then when that was done, you know, he put me on a couple things before that were both Batman family. I was on a Clown Hunter thing, and then Peacekeeper, a one shot for Fear State. I co-wrote with James Tynan. It was James Tynan had an outline that I, you know, or sort of synopsis that we worked a script out of. So I'd done some work with him, and then he'd mentioned the Batman annual and that they wanted to try and pitch a Batman Incorporated book internally, and if I would be interested. And so the plan was always that the annual would sort of help whet the appetite for a Batman Incorporated book. And so that was something that Ben brought to me, and you know, he mentioned that, like, you know, it would be Ghostmaker in charge, Clown Hunter would be there as well, and then, you know, allowed me to sort of build my team around it a bit, which is great. So that definitely, the idea for Batman Incorporated, you know, being a Ghostmaker led team, came from Ben. The story, you know, the idea of Phantom One, that was all stuff that I sort of brought to the table for it. And yeah, so it's you know, I've been lucky, and that Ben has sort of put me on books where he, you know, he recognizes where I fit. You know, I find that sometimes I'm working with editors, and you know, I'll you know, I think, you know, there's a genre of book I gravitate towards, a style, a feel of a book I gravitate towards more, and sometimes, you know, they'll be like, yeah, we got the perfect book for you, and it's like, I don't know, Polly Pocket or some shit. I don't know, like it's just something that's so outside my wheelhouse. But Ben has been really great for finding like those books where like that I, you know, that fit me and I fit as well. And you know, I've been very lucky in that regard. You know, we did that, and then, you know, we did the he's the one who put me on Deathstroke as well for that final arc of Deathstroke
Year One. Oh my God. I just read that. I just finished that last night. And that was another thing I wanted to tell you, is how much I fucking loved Deathstroke Year One. Dude,
oh, thanks.
You know Slade down to like the elements of his DNA. Like, you know, his fucking bone marrow, dude. Like, you got him so perfectly. And it was so like so raw, like dealing with the kids and the pregnancy. And we know now that like he's had issues with his kids, right? And to like have like for you to like lay that out, and then the transformation that he goes through, I thought you did that really well. Like, you know, like this when he like goes from like dead basically, or you know, weak and broken and almost and dying, almost like he's on a cancer ward, right? Like his body's just failing him in every way, and then to have that bounce back and have him get used to that, and the rocky missions that the gigs that he takes at first that don't go very well, right? And he makes some fucking rookie mistakes, you know. He's like, he mentions it like towards the end, he's like, man, I should have fucking shot that guy in the face. Yeah, now you know. But dude, you did that. It was so good.
Thanks.
Man, it was like I would not be mad if it, like Deathstroke Inc. has been cool anyway. Like Joshua, like the first arc was dope, and then to take that second arc, it was so interesting to take that second arc and throw it back in time. Like how did they come to you and like
they wanted to do a Year One story, so that was, you know, again, that was Ben. Nice. Who just, you know, they thought they want to do a Deathstroke Year One. And so, you know, I did a deep dive into, you know, I've already had read a ton of Deathstroke stuff, very familiar with Deathstroke, but, you know, went back and reread. And the toughest thing is really just trying to make sense of the continuity, which has been changed, you know, 3 million times over the years, and just sort of thread that needle in a way that makes sense. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Deathstroke, again, he's another prick. He's a lot of fun to write, and, you know, and there were some issues, you know, like him versus Green Arrow was just such a fun issue to write, and it's just such, you know, he gets into a jam and just takes the most like you know, fucked up solution to get out of it. That was just it was just, I don't know, it was a lot of fun. I really liked the character, and you know, having that opportunity to sort of set some of the origin stuff up for, you know, the current continuity for DC was interesting. It was a tough challenge, but you know, I was happy with how it came out.
Yeah, you should be, dude. Like that was one of the better Year One DC stories I've ever read. I think like it really stuck out, and it was just strong writing, no weak pages. every scene mattered. Like I said, just the the minutia, the family aspect, like all these elements that we don't often see, because so many people get irritated. Like I always use this reference, like Tom King's Batman, and like Tom King makes vulnerabilities shine in heroes, and likes to continuously remind us that like they are more than human, but still have human-based emotions, and that makes them vulnerable and weak sometimes, right? And that weakness, like when they have to overcome that weakness, it makes for powerful storytelling. A lot of people, he's kind of split down the middle. Like some people like it, and about half people like it, half people don't. I'm a fan of it, but I saw elements of that in year one, like when dealing with the positive pregnancy test, and the new, we know Rose is coming, so, but like to see that happen and have that news break, and when he hangs up on his fucking wife, oh my God, man, like there are a lot of very intense emotional beats in that year one story that you wouldn't really expect from a Deathstroke comic. And I thought that was like really cool of you to dive into and to do that. Really, like it felt very real, added to the drama of everything. And even in the end, and he's like, it's sort of a happy ending, like, but he like goes back and he's like, well, now I know to lie to my wife. And so it's like sad too. There's like a sadness there. And it's just like, man, I love Deathstroke, but you never realize what he kind of had to sacrifice to be this Deathstroke that we love, to be this, badass mercenary, and how you can't have everything. You can't have the happy home life and the happy wife and the picket fence, like, and that Merc life, right there. One of them has to be a facade, and he chooses for the family life to be the imaginative aspect of his identity. And I just, dude, kudos, you did such a great job. Oh my
Thanks, man. Yeah, that was it was a tough one. That's that's the one where the anxiety almost took over for the idea of writing a year one, and I had to sort of put that out of my head and just like think that I was writing an origin story, not think of it as a year one so much, because otherwise that's just crippling. Because Batman Year One is one of my favorite comics of all time. So there's a lot of pressure there, but just like I said, just tried to show that we don't all start out perfect, and Deathstroke, despite having all these enhanced abilities, is was a fuck up for a while.
What did you think of the new the new Battinson movie, the recent Batman movie?
Oh, yeah, I liked it.
Reeves, because that's one of a lot of some of my friends critiqued that. They were like, like watching him stumble, like he wasn't the perfect Batman yet. And I was like, yeah, but it's like a new Batman for a new era and a new actor, and he's finding his feet, and I really love that about it. But I was kind of wondering if you connected with that film too, because you're good at that part too. You're good at like establishing heroes in a new way, and giving them like a new platform to jump off of.
Yeah, I liked it enough. I like, you've discussed already, like the idea of heroes fumbling and screwing up, and I like sort of looking for their imperfections and then sort of playing with those. And yeah, so those are parts of the film that definitely worked for me as well.
Nice. Well, Ed, I've kept you over an hour, man. Time flew by. This is a great. It was so great to chat with you. Again, I'm a huge fan of your work, and I'm excited for stuff in the future. It's so cool to see you have two pretty big fucking books at both Marvel and DC. Like you got your fingers in both houses, pulling on the puppet strings, man. I'm so happy for you, and I think you deserve it. I think you've worked really hard in this industry, and I hope you continue to get seen and noticed in the respect that you deserve. Thank you so much for coming on my show. I so appreciate you. And the polite podcast host that I am, this is the part where I ask, like, for people that are new to you or want to follow you online, or do you have like a newsletter or anything like that we can keep track of?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter. It's just at Ed Brisson, so EDBRISSON, all one word. And I do have a newsletter. I think if you go into my bio in my Twitter, there's a link tree. You can find my newsletter, or you can just go to my site which is edbrisson.com, and subscribe there. I don't update it a ton. I'm trying to get into a monthly habit of updating it. But yeah, and if you want to find my work, I'm on Predator right now, Batman Incorporated. Next month, I think, coming up soon, I'll have a Stormwatch series that will be running through Brave and the Bold to check out.
No shit.
Yeah, and working with artist Jeff Spokes. I'm actually just doing a dialogue pass on the first one right now, which is it looks incredible. And yeah, other than that, I'm around.
That's, dude, I'm really stoked that we're bringing back all this Wildstorm stuff. Like it's cool to see all this like come back, like Stormwatch, Wildcats. Like there was a one shot that just came out last month or so. Like it's cool to see this new emergence of that, and they're like bringing in the talent too, like Rosenberg and all these, and you, and like that's exciting. That's so cool.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, man, this was so awesome. Everybody, thank you for listening. You really need to check out Predator from Marvel. Volume 1 comes out, I believe, the first week of April. Sometime in April, you definitely need to get that, or buy the singles. Go to your shop and pick up the back issues. Whatever's easier for you, you need to get it. Batman Incorporated is awesome. Deathstroke Year One should have a trade coming out. I think it's a hardcover, so it'll look great on the shelves, and it will. I loved that so much. Such a great read, dude. You're so fucking talented, and I wish you the best. And thank you so much. And I hope you enjoy your day. And thank you so much for giving me a little bit of your time.
Not a problem. I appreciate it.